leadership, workplace mental health, entrepreneurship. This is Victory Leaders Lounge. This is Victory Leaders Lounge. All right, and we are here on another episode, and I have a special guest here today with a unique company, and I'll let her tell you all about that, but her name is Laura Renner, and I forgot to put my phone on mute. But Laura, please go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about you and the history of your company.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. And thanks for having me, JJ. And my name is Laura Renner. My company is Freedom Makers Virtual Services, and we help solopreneurs and small teams get things done with consistency by pairing them with a qualified military spouse as their remote assistant.
That is awesome. So I love that because I know that when I looked at your website, it talks a lot about that. But the unique thing, everyone know in my audience, if they don't already know, that I served and retired from the military, and my wife and we bounced around from duty station to duty station. And I know this really fits in with your mission because it's very difficult for a spouse to gain employment, especially when they know they're a military spouse and they may or may not be there very long. A lot of people are looking for long-term employees. So it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, giving spouses an opportunity to have something while they are bouncing around from place to place every 2 or 3 years.
Exactly. That's the goal. And, originally we view it as sort of, we're supporting two sides of two different types of needs, right? You have solopreneurs and small teams who need support, but they don't need it at super like full-time or even part-time levels. They maybe need as little as 10 hours a month. So they need support. And then you have the spouses who are looking for flexible work opportunities. So that's what kind of gave me the idea almost 9 years ago exactly, to bring those two together and solve sort of two problems with one solution.
Oh, wow. So before we go into what those solutions are, I'm going to put your contact information below. So anybody who is on social media, if the things that she says, as far as what they provide for solopreneurs, if they resonate with you, you should look at her link. She'll probably tell you verbally too, and here in a minute. But I just want to make sure that you guys have her contact information because that this could be something that would benefit you. And the banner went away, but that's fine. Go ahead and start telling what type of services do your Freedom Makers offer?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, I guess a better way or a way to start explaining that is that freedom is a guiding principle for us. It's in our name and things like that too. But for us, what I think where we differ from a lot of other virtual assistant agencies is that freedom piece of things. So we don't have set services that we offer. It's really kind of what the solopreneur needs. And we found over the years that because of that, the spouses who have thrived in our community are sort of Renaissance people who like to do a little bit of everything. And because that's what a solopreneur does. They're their own marketing, their own IT, their own finance, sales, everything. And they need just a little bit of support maybe in some of those, or they want to get support specifically in one of those. So, but I think where we have seen a lot of our clients want support and where the spouses thrive are things that need consistency, where they're important, but not necessarily urgent. So it's not like, hey, I have this meeting in 15 minutes. Can you remind me who it is? Like that's not what a virtual assistant is really equipped to do, but rather things like posting on social media, email and calendar management, CRM management, particularly the follow-up side of things. Those are things that solopreneurs really need that consistent support on, that a virtual assistant working remotely can do because they can do that every day, regardless of time zone or what, things like that. They can still be committed to it, even though it's not like a do this right now type task.
So I know I originally met you in the All Call, and that's something that Freedom Makers started as well. It's a business networking opportunity, and if you should also check out that website below, because if you are a small business owner or any size business owner and you'd like to network with other business owners, you can do that there. But you explained how a person would know one time, how they know why would they need a virtual assistant, or how would they figure out whether or not they need a virtual assistant or a freedom maker? And you explained that very well.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure if I can remember exactly how I said it then, but it usually comes down to it's the task that's always at the bottom of your list that you don't get to, and you're ready to let it go, and you're not so. I think a lot of times business owners, entrepreneurs, we're control freaks. We like things done a certain way, but it's when it's a point where it's more of a pebble in your shoe or a thorn in your side than actually giving you that joy. And so then it's when you're ready to let it go and you're able to systematize it so that you can let it go in a way that where you're not the bottleneck for it by
Hmm.
having someone else do it for you.
So it's like maybe a lower cost or a lower commitment level for hiring your first employee, rather than just going out and having to pay payroll taxes and the whole 9 yards, sort of a thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I know that my biggest hiccup with hiring out somebody I went through many companies that advertise to me all the time. I haven't actually hired any of them yet. I'm having issues with that in here, but with them being overseas, in Thailand and South America, and there's nothing wrong with any of those people, but I'm a patriot at heart. So if I was to hire somebody first, maybe it would be either an independent contractor here in the United States or a freedom maker or something like that. And I think it's wonderful that you provide that service. And it's a little bit different because we could hire freedom makers instead of just signing a contract with one individual, and we could actually get multiple people doing multiple things and not have a time commitment or anything like that. And can you explain that model of how
Sure.
you pay these people? I already know, but I'm going to let you say it.
Well, yes, I'll say too, we call ourselves an agency style model. So the whole idea is you have this whole team to support you behind the scenes. So if you needed to replace them or add additional, as you mentioned, we help facilitate that, which you don't get if you work with an
No.
independent freelancer, which is, I mean, but that's fine too. Some people want that and they're comfortable with that. And that's absolutely fine. Same with the overseas, some people, they have very specific tasks where they don't need the person to know Western nuance or American language nuance.
Hmm.
And I say American specifically because, even British English is different, obviously, right? So if you don't, some people are they're like, I don't need that for the task I want them to do. So that's perfect for them. Other people, they're like, no, I would prefer to have someone who knows American culture, American English nuance, that kind of thing. And they want that support of an agency. Like we've heard that too from clients that we help take the overwhelm out of finding someone. Because if you go for a freelancer or an independent, now you have to do all the searching yourself, and we take that overwhelm out as well. So those are some of the things we've heard. But yeah, for us, the how we work is, we don't have a minimum hour requirement. So clients they set the number of hours they want their freedom maker to work, and they have that flexibility to do it that way. And so I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, and what I noticed as well, and by the way, I gotta hang out after we're done with this call because I gotta talk to you. I think that maybe it went to my spam folder, but I did talk to one of your freedom makers a couple months ago. But when she was explaining it to me, it's really interesting because I think you guys use project management software like Slack or something like that to give somebody their slots, and you just pay them for you could pay them for 20 hours or 5 hours or 2 hours or however many hours that you two agree on in a week. And it takes the stress out of it, because if you know that you're not performing well that month, maybe somebody just doesn't need legal assistance or or marketing or whatever the case may be, well then you can you can talk to that virtual assistant, cut their hours, which it probably doesn't hurt their feelings because they have their military service member right there that is making their full-time income. And this is just what they do on the side. And they probably have multiple people that they're helping, and, allows them to shuffle their schedule around. But for the person who's hiring that virtual assistant, it gives you the flexibility of not having to worry about paying a set amount all the time.
Yeah, so that goes back to that freedom piece where exactly the business owner can doesn't have set hours. They have that flexibility where they can ramp up or ramp down. At the same time, we have noticed that freedom makers do like that consistency. They do like to
Yes.
be able to predict their workflow and their income. So we always encourage clients to be as consistent as possible. But the freedom side for the freedom makers is we don't assign work to them. So if someone comes to us with a bookkeeping background or a legal assistance background, but they're burnt out and they don't want to do it, we don't make them do it. They get to go for what they're interested in. So
Oh,
that's the
that's
freedom
great.
side for them is they get to choose the kind of work they go to they're going to go for. We don't have a minimum requirement on their side either of how many hours they have to work. So they can build that flexibility in their own life with what's going on. As you know, a military spouse usually ends up running the house too, because if their service member is deploying all the time or inconsistently, or sorry, unpredictably, they have to be able to run that house too. So giving them that maximum flexibility is what I think is appealing to a lot of freedom makers in our community as well.
Oh, I agree. And God bless them because if they have kids there, oof. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I was talking to someone a few weeks ago. Her spouse is Coast Guard, and she's like, he goes out on ship, and I don't know when he's coming back. It could be 2 weeks, it could
Oh,
be two
man.
months, and it's just the way their shift works. So it's not even just deploying to the Middle East or
No,
whatnot that we
no.
think of with military. It's even just sea duty or things like that, where you're out and you don't know when you're coming back, and sometimes you come back just to do laundry. Sometimes you're back for a whole week. Like that's what she was explaining to me. In those cases, it's just easier to just run the house on your
Yes.
own, right? And so then being able to have that flexibility is a big draw, I think, for our freedom makers.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I when I was on active duty, I remember so often, especially when I was stationed in Hawaii, to be honest with you, um, we the our in brief when we first got there, I remember it clearly. Your family will enjoy Hawaii. That was the commanding general and the command sergeant major saying that. And they're like, I want to say that one more time. Your family will enjoy Hawaii.
Right,
And we just all kind of looked at each other. He's like, yeah, we do a lot of training, and you're probably going to be in Thailand, Indonesia. And he started naming Korea, all the places in the Pacific
yeah,
region. And he was absolutely right. I would say about 3 weeks out of every month I was home, which is 3/4 of the time. But when you're gone a month out of every week, or sometimes for multiple months at a time, then
right,
it yet your spouse runs the family. I mean, they
right,
run the household. They get the kids off
right,
to school. They still have to make time for everything that they want to do, and to have that flexibility in a job. I mean, for them to know that from 8 to 12 every day, they have an opportunity to do something that could potentially bring money into the household. And that's really it. You
right.
know, how many play? I mean, they're gas, not even a gas station will probably give you that kind of flexibility in your schedule. So
And it's
how amazing is
really right. And it's also a way to an opportunity to be professional, right? Like that's what we see a lot. We hear a lot around I get to this time is for myself. I get to do something that engages a part of my brain that I'm not using when I'm running the house, right? So that's appealing to your point, like um is in a professional office setting, like working in a shift type retail role that that also uses a different part of your brain, right? That um, some people get to use, right? And then other people want to use more the office type
yep,
brain.
yep.
Mhm.
Well, and in addition to that, the one complaint that not just my wife had, but all of the spouses are like a tight knit community on a military base. You got to be very careful when you're the service member. I'll tell you that much right now. But no, they had the same complaint. They just didn't feel like they were contributing. And in the service members' eyes, they're doing most of the heavy lifting. But for them to have a mission of their own to work towards that's providing monetary value to the household, it gives them additional skills. It provides them a little. It's almost like going to the gym, right? They get to do some actual heavy lifting and flex their corporate skills, and in addition to that, now they feel like they're contributing to the household. and it does something up here in the mind more, and in the heart as well, because that's not something they get to do when they're bouncing around. And by the way, if you have 2 or 3 kids, childcare is very, very expensive, and it's
And
almost not worth it to get a job.
and also, like, because a lot of for the non-military out there, a lot of bases do have childcare centers, but they might be full. So that,
Yes.
or they have rules on you can't get in unless you already have a job. It's like, well, I need childcare to go look for a job, that kind of thing. But I'll add to a couple of things. Like we always say, small business is the backbone of America. Military spouses is the backbone of the military, right?
Yep.
So to be able to support both. And then another thing I share oftentimes to business owners is every single spouse I've met, regardless of skills, education, experience, they all have at least 3 things in common. They know how to research, because how many times are you moving
Oh
somewhere,
my gosh.
you know
Yes.
this, that you don't even know where it is, right? So they know how to research. They know how to organize. Going
Yep.
back to that point of running a house, right? You have to be very organized, and they're adaptable. And what does every small business owner need? Research, organization, adaptability. It's like, it's kind of it's a win-win.
It's a match made in heaven. No, I love that, and you're absolutely right. The stuff that every service member has to go through, the spouse goes through as well. And so there's more to that, right? So there's also networking. You have
Right.
to build every duty station you go to, you have to build a new network. And
Yep.
you have to know where all the resources are, and every business needs the same thing. And so I mean, if a business owner needs to know, who should I talk to for this? Who should I talk to for this? If you really put that sort of a task in the hand of a military spouse or a service member for that matter, but we're not talking about them right now. We're talking about freedom makers. They will not only get you an answer, but they'll probably get you a lot more than what you were looking for in the very beginning, which is only beneficial to a business owner, because we just don't have time for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing. Yeah, I'm going to be hanging on after this call, because I need to get in contact with that gal I was talking to before, because there are certain tasks like this social media thing. I'm just going to go ahead and put a plug in for you with that. Right now, I know that the reels that I post all the time, and the regular posts that I post all the time, as I build up my client base, I just don't have time for that. And then I get to Monday or Tuesday and I realize that my social media planning calendar is empty.
And
I'm like, how did that happen?
right.
I thought I had that stuff planned out for the next month. Well, guess what? That month
That was
has passed.
Yep. Exactly. It goes back to that consistency, right? Like
Yes, yes.
I hear oftentimes solopreneurs are like, I write the blog, I just never post it.
Well, or you do the stuff, and you have all these systems to plan and post everything for you, but if you don't keep up with it, that time goes by very quickly, and you can
Exactly.
have all these fancy systems to do all the work for you, but you actually have to input that stuff into these
Exactly.
fancy systems so that it
Right.
keeps up with it. I mean, even my podcast, I did 2 or 3 of them this week, because I didn't realize that I was at the end of my podcast schedule. So I had to put 4 of them up there this week. So now they're scheduled for the next month, but that's going to catch up with me too. So
Sure.
it's
Sure.
just all of these small things that happen, especially if you're trying to make a business where you're all the way across the country, which a lot of people are these days. We have our
Mhm.
local presence, but we also have our online presence.
Right.
You absolutely have to do this social media stuff. As much as people don't want to, you kind of have to, because people are
Right.
going to look you up, especially if you're working for another business. But
Sure.
having somebody on, and I know that your people do not just do social media. I know that's not the case. I mean, there's much, much more. But I mean, what a powerful thing to have somebody to take care of those. I'll call it the low hanging fruit that you need done, but you don't always get done.
Right. Right. That's why I always say they're important and need consistency, but they're not, urgent, or they're not going to bring in the revenue right away.
Not right away. No, it's the stuff that gets you noticed and
Right.
people are going to be looking at, but maybe not, that's not going to get you a client in that moment. Once you put it up there. No, that's not how that works.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you started this 9 years ago. Is that's what you said? And
Yes.
how has that evolved? I mean, if you could tell the audience how many freedom makers do you have? I mean, I'm sure you started off with nobody. That's how every business starts. How big
Yeah.
are you now?
Yeah, so we have a little over 100 freedom makers working, about 300 in the community, and yet you're right. We started with zero, and I I I actually so we started in April of 15, but it was sort of a pivot, or it was from a previous business. So I had one employee who was a veteran, and I asked her if she would be willing to be the assistant. And thankfully, she was very transparent with me. And she said she didn't think she could handle balancing between multiple clients in a day type thing that a virtual assistant needs to do. And so I've always appreciated her transparency on that. And then I asked my sister-in-law, who is a spouse and was kind of the inspiration for the idea, but she's a creative. And she's like, yeah, admin's not for me. And so as a result, I went and posted on a forum and got maybe 4 or 5 spouses who were interested in joining me. The first one is actually now our operations manager. And so I just think that's really neat that, she was there. She was the first freedom maker. And now here she is running the entire operations of the company. But so part of me wonders if either one of those first two had said yes, would we be a boutique agency that has maybe 10 clients that the three of us support together kind of thing? And instead now we have, like I said, over 100 spouses working at any given time.
That is, oh my gosh, that actually just touches the heart because I know what my spouse went through while we were on active duty, and oftentimes she didn't have a job
Right.
because she had to take care of the kids. And and I know, knowing that now, I mean, if you started this in 2015, well, I was still on active duty then. I mean, that would have been something that she probably would have jumped on.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
dang it.
Well, it's one of those things too where, it depends. Like I've heard of bases where there are employment opportunities. However, maybe it's very heavy in the hospitality or tourism industry. So if you're not in that space, it's not really a place for you to go. And then there are places where it's just not a vibrant economy that's near the base. So there's not a lot of professional work opportunities, right? So then you end up having this career that kind of meanders but doesn't allow you to grow, right? Um and so but for me, I mean, we're still a small business, we're still growing, but that's part of our goal is to be able to provide, like I said, that flexibility for spouses and continue to support them and small businesses.
Well, and I'm just gonna go and say the same thing I've already said, but I remember, so I married my wife when she was under 20 years old. So I mean, she was still a kid when we got married. And so, how much experience did she gain employment wise from duty station to duty station to duty station? Well, all those organizational skills and the adaptability and all that other stuff that you talked about, absolutely. But, actually putting something on a resume,
Sure.
very difficult for her to do that because if you have no experience, of course you can get a job, but
Right.
what is that actually going to pay you?
Right. Or contribute to your professional development, right? And so,
Correct.
yep.
Yes. Yes. And
Yep.
oh, gosh, now she's a massage therapist and she actually loves what she does.
That's great.
But, our kids are older now. And so we don't have to worry about us even being here when they get home from school or anything like that because they're both teenagers. But back when they were younger, she didn't want to do that. I mean, if it paid more for her to not work and just be there for the kids, it worked
Right.
out. But if she would have had an at-home opportunity, oh gosh, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but just whenever I see your face on these all calls, I'm just thinking to myself, what an opportunity for spouses. So how would somebody become a freedom maker? I have a lot of military people in my network. So how would somebody become a freedom maker if they were interested in that?
Sure. Yeah. So if you go to our website, there's a link for Freedom Makers, and there's a video to watch, and then you can fill out a form if you're interested. And from there, we'll start our screening process to see if people are interested, and to your or if it's a fit. And to your point, we don't use resumes for the exact reason. And so sometimes clients, when they're choosing a freedom maker, they'll ask for a resume, and we're like, no, we don't do resumes here, because even though they're a spouse and you understand, when you see their resume, that might be like, wait,
Yeah,
what's happening? So we purposely do not use resumes for that reason. We have profiles that highlight their skills, but we don't do resumes because of that. Exactly what you
that is
said.
so smart. That is so smart. Yeah, because the life experience they bring to the table is so much more. And by the way, a lot of these men and women are very, very educated, and they never got an opportunity to learn what they
Exactly.
apply any of those skills that they learned when they were in college. But having a
Exactly.
5 or 10 or 15 year gap on your resume, it will automatically set something off in a person's mind where they might judge them a little bit and be like, I don't really want to work with that person.
Right. Without
Yeah.
realizing you're doing that, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
yeah,
You may not
yeah,
think that you're doing that, but you'll automatically go on to the next one if you're especially if you've ever worked for a company and had to hire within a company, not of your own. you know, you're trained to look at the experience that's there rather
right.
than understand what that person actually brings to the table. You're not going to want to do an interview with them at all.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. So we're getting close to the 30 minutes. This is where I usually ask if there's anything that you would like to share with the audience, whether it's a specific thing about the company or maybe something going on in your community that you want to share, or whatever the case may be. This is where I open that up to you before I close out the call.
Oh man. Put on the spot.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, as you brought up, we do host a monthly networking event virtual for business owners to come be a part of a community to get help and receive help, that kind of thing. That's the first Thursday of every month. So it's coming up here in a couple of weeks at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can register for that on our website. And then, yeah, anyone who, if you think you if you're a business owner and you think you might be ready to delegate, you can also go to our website. We have what's called a task audit to help you think through what you might let go of, or you can schedule a call with us. And of course, any spouse who is interested in flexible sort of um, Renaissance work or jack of all trades type work, definitely check us out as well. And we're always welcoming people who think they'd be a fit for this type of work.
I love that. You made that sound fancy. Renaissance work. Well, stick around after we're done here, Laura. I'd like to talk to you. Once I click the end stream button, it'll still be an open room like it was before the call. But what I
Okay.
will tell everybody on the call that's listening or hears this in the future, if this information resonates with you and you think that anybody within your network would want to talk to Laura, then like this so more people in your audience see it. Subscribe to it. I need to grow my YouTube channel so people will see this. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. Um,
Awesome.
Repost this, share it. But more than anything, I'm sure Laura will see this because she's tagged in this on all of my platforms. But post a comment below, keep the conversation going, ask questions. If you want to know more about Laura and she doesn't see this, I'll monitor the comments and I'll share those comments with her if she doesn't respond to those. So I really just want to make sure that these freedom makers get more visibility, because the more business she has, the more she can hire, the more her business can grow. And that's just kind of how it works.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's make this happen. Otherwise, oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say I'm generally pretty good about keeping up on LinkedIn. Although, so I'm in the reserve and I was doing my reserve duty and I completely did not log into LinkedIn. So I missed a lot of those, but that's once a year. So generally I'm good about staying up on LinkedIn.
And you're absolutely right. But life happens. That's what I was really alluding to. So,
Right.
yeah. So please share this with your audience or comment below, and we will see you all the next time. Take care, everybody.